Hey there, in today's video, I'm going to show you how to turn the loop stitch into fur that you can add onto your amigurumi. So I have these two little samples here, and I have actually like mini patterns for these samples in the blog post that goes along with this video. That link is in the description box below. So you can use that to make your own little samples or make one of your own design. I did a flat version and a round version just to kind of show you. The flat version is one that you'd be able to sew onto an amigurumi, whereas the round version kind of shows you how you could incorporate the loop stitch into a project and then do this afterwards. So check that out. And of course, if you're listening to this, like, what the heck is a loop stitch? How do I do that? I actually have a video tutorial for that as well. I'll put a little iCard on the screen. But otherwise, what you're going to need for this technique is you're just going to need some scissors and a carding brush. This is a mini one that I got from Amazon. You can use a full-size carding brush or even a dog brush with metal bristles. You just want to use something that will separate the fibers. And if you're not sure if your project is going to fluff very well, then a good test is to take some of that yarn and tie it into like a little tassel and brush out the ends of it. If it's starting to fluff out and get really soft, then it is going to work. If it ends up stringy and it's not fluffing out, then it will not work and you need to use a different yarn for this. But just a quick note, you don't have to use 100% wool like I am. You can use blends or 100% acrylic. Like I said, just do the test to check your fiber. So now I'm going to show you first what to do on the flat sample. We're going to take our scissors and we're going to cut at the tops of the loops. You want to make sure you're not cutting down near the base because you can mess up the integrity of the stitch. So I'm just going kind of row by row, cutting each of the top of the loops. And this may take you a little bit depending on how big your project is, but you want to cut it all at once. Here's what you should have when you finish. And it's going to look a little bit like shag carpet. Now we're going to take our carding brush and we're going to brush out the strands, but I recommend doing sections at a time as brushing across the entire thing is going to be a bit messy and you'll end up spending longer trying to get all the fibers. So I'm separating the last row or two and I'm just going to brush out those strands before I pull a couple more down and keep on brushing. Also, make sure that you're not yanking really hard or pushing down really hard through the fibers. You're just gently running the teeth of the carding brush over the strands, and it will fluff up and get looser the more that you brush it. You also may notice that your carding brush is getting filled with all this extra fiber that's coming off. Don't throw that away, just set it aside. Depending on what yarn you're using and the fiber content, you may get more or less of that coming off. But what you can actually use that extra fluff for is stuffing, or you can use it for needle felting your amigurumi projects. I actually have a whole video on how to recycle yarn scraps and use that fluff for needle felting. So if you want to check out, that little card is on the screen right now. So after brushing for a bit, this is what you should have, this nice, soft, fluffy, like furry texture. And the back side is regular crochet, so that means that it's really easy for you actually to pin it and then sew it onto an already completed piece. That way you can add the fur without having to like latch hook individual strands on. I really like that. But if you wanted to incorporate the loop stitch directly into your project and then do the same process to create the fur, I'll show you how to do that on this other sample right now. Again, I'm starting by just cutting all of the loops, and this process is a little bit more tedious on a round project than it would be on the flat one because the rows don't exactly line up. But just take your time, try and get every single loop. And if you accidentally cut one a little bit too short, that's okay. Or if one's a little bit long, you can always give your project a haircut after you fluff it out. This kind of funky pom-pom look is what you should have once all the loops are cut. And now we're just going to do the exact same process as we did with the flat sample. And we're going to brush out all of the strands. Once again, I'm going to separate small sections at a time and brush those out first, just to keep this a little bit more manageable. But also note that I am brushing in multiple directions to try and get all around each of the strands, whereas with the flat piece I was mostly brushing in the direction that the loops were already leaning. This is just how I would do it. If you're working on a project that only has a couple of loop stitches and you want to be careful not to actually like fuzz up the surrounding fabric, just be very careful the direction that you're brushing. And you may notice a lot more of that fluff on the tabletop. Just scoop that up and place it with the other leftover fibers, and you can use that, like I said, for things like needle felting. So this is what you should have at the end, and the bottom using the loop stitch is going to be kind of open. That's just kind of the nature of it, but that's a perfect place to sew it onto a project or use this as a pom-pom. It doesn't shed a whole lot once you're done brushing it. Like you can't like physically pull the fibers out unless you're pulling really hard. I hope you liked this tutorial. If you did, give it a thumbs up and make sure to subscribe so you never miss a video. And I'm curious, what would you make with this technique, or how would you apply it to your next amigurumi project? Share in the comments below. I'll see you next time. Bye.